Joe Rogan's discussion on debt and student loans is eye-popping, but it's only part of the story. Join me as I break down what Rogan got right, what he missed, and show you how to take control of your financial future. Before we jump into the video, about 30% of you watching this are subscribers, so thank you very much. Those that are new to the channel, we're all about money for young professionals aged 20 to 40 years old. So be sure to subscribe for updates and tips and tricks that pertain to you. With that being said, let's jump into it.
Did you see the credit card debt? All these $400 cards. Did you think people have this money?
Look at this. Maxed out inside America's credit card debt crisis and what we do next. And this is from CNET. It says our $1.13 trillion in credit card debt. Wow. Is shattering lives. Everyday borrowers share how they're navigating this uniquely American debt machine. That's a lot of money, man.
So I'm glad they were shining light on credit card debt because, in my opinion, it's actually a worse situation than the student loan crisis. In 2021, credit card debt was at $770 billion. It's now at $1.13 trillion. That's a 13% annual increase.
And the thing is, they're giving credit cards to people that are too young to really understand debt. You're giving credit cards to 18-year-olds.
Now, I don't agree with this 100%. At 18 years old, you can get a credit card and you can get a secured credit card. It's a great way to learn. In fact, I'm such a big believer in people getting a secured credit card. I think they should pass a law that says you cannot have an unsecured credit card until you've had a secured credit card first. But I don't think anybody in Congress is going to listen to me, so I don't think that law's going to get passed anytime soon. I said I don't 100% agree with Rogan on this, but I do agree with it somewhat. Why? Because people get into credit card debt and it starts developing a really bad habit, and they get into what we call the debt cycle. They just get more and more and more debt. However, again, I want to emphasize the credit card problem, and I'm going to show you why it's not just the students that are getting in the credit card debt that Joe Rogan's talking about. So let's put this problem into perspective. Let's say 30 million students have credit limits of $500 and they've maxed out their credit. So they have $500 outstanding on their credit cards. That's only $15 billion. Total credit card debt is 86 times that amount. So like I said, it's not students that are the problem. The bad part is people aren't spending stuff on stupid crap like they were in 2008. And I'll give you an example of this. Like, I was at a restaurant this weekend. It was a sushi restaurant. It normally takes 2 hours to get a seat at this restaurant. Not only did we not have to wait, but half the place was empty. So people aren't buying luxury stuff. They aren't buying boats with credit cards, so on and so forth. Instead, they're putting everyday things on their credit cards, like groceries, and they can't afford to pay them off. This is not a good thing.
The worst scam is the education loans. It's the worst scam.
Worst.
It's the worst because you're convincing kids that this is the only way they're going to be successful in life, and a lot of them don't even wind up using it, and then they're saddled down with debt for the rest of their fucking life.
So again, I partially agree with Joe Rogan on this and partially don't agree. I completely agree that it's a scam. Now, just to clarify, I'm not saying education is a scam. I'm saying the relationship between the federal government, universities, and employers are a scam. That's for a whole nother video though. Instead, let's dive into what I don't agree with on what Joe Rogan just said. When it comes to student loans, borrowers are not saddled with it to the day they die when it comes to federal loans. And the reason being is because we have income-driven repayment plans where people literally pay pennies on the dollar and then they get their loans forgiven after a certain amount of time. For example, I just talked to a FitBucks member named Mary this morning, and she fits the prototypical profile that Joe Rogan is talking about. She has $300,000 in federal student loans, and she makes about $60,000 a year. As of now, she'll end up paying about $150,000 over 20 years out of actually owing $300,000 plus interest. So she's going to end up having $250,000 that she doesn't pay, and the loans are forgiven.
We have a friend, a mutual friend, that decided not to get married. As much as he loved this fucking girl, broke up with her because of her debt.
This, sadly, is absolutely the truth. The worst call I've actually had with FitBucks and FitBucks members was a couple. They've been dating for years, and on the call, it was the first time that she heard how much student loan debt that he had. They literally broke up on the phone call, and it was really awkward because I'm like this third wheel on this phone call, and I couldn't hang up because I'm the one that initiated the phone call. So I'm sitting there like listening to this, and it's like, what am I supposed to say, right? And I mean, I get this all the time. Another FitBucks member, I set up a financial plan for it. He and his fiance about 3 months ago literally just called me yesterday to tell me that they broke up, and it was primarily because of the debt situation.
Well, it's on you right away when you get married. And if she dies, you owe it.
No, I don't agree with this because this is not true for federal loans when you get married. The student loans is still in your spouse's name. You cannot join the names together on a student loan. And with federal student loans, when your spouse dies or that person dies, they're automatically discharged. And like I said at the beginning, I love that Joe Rogan's bringing light to this debt issue. Someone needs to. But in reality, we also can't solve the problems for the entire world. You can only solve problems for yourself. So, how do you do that? Step number one is to know what type of debt that you have. So, for example, student loan debt is very different than car loan debt, and it's much different than credit card debt. Step two is to have a financial plan that strategically pays it off. You can see here that this FitBucks member has about $150,000 in student loan debt. He put together a good plan, and he'll have no debt within 10 years and have over $200,000 in savings. The third step, that as life happens and you're contemplating taking on new debt, go back into your financial plan and build various scenarios to see what the impact is on your financial future. For example, let's just say the same person from step two now wants to buy a car, and he wants to contemplate a $25,000 car versus a $70,000 car. You can see that the $70,000 car versus the $25,000 car in the long run will end up costing him almost $250,000 in the long run. Now, as you can see, financial planning is very important. Therefore, your next step should be